talk about technology not directly related to creativity, aka Google. In a 2017 article, two professors at Loyola Marymount University, Matt Steffel and Dr. Andrew Rahm, wrote about an experiment they underwent to gauge whether Google search behavior encouraged or inhibited creativity. They were curious as to if a technology similar to Google or Google itself was leading to a type of creative brain atrophy, because after all, if creativity is a muscle and you don't use that muscle, then you lose it. The search engine, with its ability to answer any and all questions one may have, leads people to not having to think as critically or deeply as they would have if they'd had to come up with the answer on their own. Their creative medium? Paper airplanes. While they defined creativity as the ability to generate unique and novel ideas that are relevant and or useful, for this particular experiment, they focused on how unique and useful the paper airplanes were. The originality of the paper airplane design defined uniqueness, while the distance flown defined usefulness. The subjects, which consisted of 74 students, were split equally between two groups. The Google group, who were instructed to use Google to create a paper airplane, and the non-Google group, who were told to design their planes without the internet and to simply rely on their own experience, intuition, and imagination. Additionally, in order to establish a control for inherent creative ability, participants were asked to do an online creativity test. Their scores were analyzed, and there was no link found between inherent creativity and the creativity of their paper airplane designs. Steffel and Rahm acted as the judges, recording each flight's distance in inches and rating each participant's plane on originality from a score of 1 to 7. Separately, they evaluated the paper airplanes in a blind review, and then afterwards came back together and reconciled their decision differences. After analyzing the unique nature of the planes as well as their flight data, they found two things. The first thing is that the Google group's planes were more creative based on the definition of being both useful and unique. They generated planes that were, on average, based on their scores, more creative than the non-Google group's planes. As for usefulness, they flew 20% farther than the non-Google group's planes for two reasons. First, the Google group's planes actually worked, and by that I mean they actually flew forward. The second reason that they were more useful is because there was a higher number of catastrophic failures in the non-Google group. A few planes fell out of the sky upon takeoff, and one even flew backwards. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I would definitely say that the ability to Google how to make a paper airplane fly has its advantages in this situation. The second discovery is that the paper airplane's most creative planes were born out of pure imagination. While staying within the guidelines of this experiment, they rejected the convention of what it means to be a paper airplane. They created radically different and disruptive designs based on the experiment's structure and task, which was to create a unique and far-flying plane with just a piece of simple, standard-sized copy paper. The authors unfortunately did not give a lot of examples of unconventional planes so that we as the reader could decide if we agree with them or not, but they do mention one participant who simply got his paper, crumpled it into a really tight ball, and then threw it really far. Again, while it wasn't a conventional airplane design, it did fit within the guidelines given to the participants. So what's the overall takeaway for this experiment? First, using Google generates marginally more creative thinking. And second, although resulting in far more failures, the most radical and truly creative designs were born out of pure imagination and without the aid of Google or the internet. To put it simply, Google, aka the technology in question, helps basic creativity as well as conventional success. But if you really want to break the creative glass ceiling, consider looking inward for creative solutions rather than outward. And while Google does somewhat prevent unconventional thinking, your creativity doesn't suffer through its use. Other examples of technologies not directly related to creativity, but that do improve it, are things like group forums and chats, such as group texting, Reddit, and even Slack. Each of these technologies allows for people to contribute ideas simultaneously, rather than individually like in a group setting or a meeting. More ideas means more opportunities to hit creative gold. Okay, so now we know that technology that isn't directly related to creativity can help creativity to an extent. So what about technologies that are directly related to creativity, such as a computer, a tablet, or even a headset? How do these affect the creativity of those who use them? When German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche could no longer write by hand and was forced to move over to a typewriter, he said this about his experience: "The machine is impersonal. It deprives the piece of work its pride of the individual goodness and faultiness, that is to say, of its little bit of humanity. Our writing tools are working on our thoughts." For Nietzsche, the typewriter made his words harder and less poetic than when he was writing on paper. The enhanced technology harmed his creative experience and did not help his creative process at all. In contrast to Nietzsche, we have Glen Keane, a well-known and very popular Disney animator who's worked on things like The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, and many more classics. His experience from paper to VR is quite the opposite of Nietzsche's from paper to the typewriter.
I would draw not to do a drawing, but so that I could step in and live in that world. Today, all the rules have changed. By putting tools in your hand that can create in virtual reality, I can put goggles on and I just step into the paper and now I'm drawing in it. Just immersing myself in space is more like a dance. What is this amazing new world I just stepped into? That doorway to the imagination is open a little wider.
As you can see, for someone like Glen Keane, who is inarguably a master animator and artist, technology can greatly enhance the creative experience. Like he says, the doorway to the imagination is open a little wider. So for him, at least in this video that he was likely paid to be in, better technology was a blessing and not a curse. And personally, I think that's how most people in today's world feel about technologies that directly impact creativity. Aside from constantly vying for your attention, a topic that I'll hit on another time, technological tools directly related to creativity can only open new avenues for creation. Glen Keane was physically able to enter the world of his creations. Nietzsche, while he was not a fan of it, was able to continue writing because of the typewriter. And even now, you're watching a video made possible by technological tools such as the cell phone, a computer, which leads to video editing software, the internet, as well as YouTube itself. The fact is, technology and creativity go hand in hand. They complement each other and allow us to increase the speed of our creative process and help us to be more productive. Not only does it allow for an increased accessibility to new experiences and new perspectives from which to draw our creative ideas from, it provides us with a whole new set of tools to express ourselves with. Without technology, things like 3D printing, TV, movies, and any other kind of digital content would not be possible. Would you have known about my Kickstarter without technology? Nope. Which, by the way, it's still running, just had to put my plug in there. So clearly, technology can only be used to help creativity, right? I think you know by now that if I ask that kind of a question, the answer is gonna be wrong. If you watched my video from a few weeks ago called You Can Be More Creative Right Now, I'll link to it right here, you'll know that when you're distracted, your creativity suffers. More specifically, when you're distracted by technology. Time for an explanation. Technology kills through something called digital distraction. If you've ever found yourself sitting at the computer to do work or sitting in front of the TV while also scrolling on your phone, only to find out that hours have passed and you've literally done absolutely nothing, you've suffered from digital distraction. Essentially, it's when you're not being mindful about your technology use and are sucked into a digital device hole. Somehow you've been doing something while simultaneously doing nothing. It's the 21st century, so if you even think about commenting and saying that this has never happened to you, I will call you out on it because that's a lie. We have all suffered from digital distraction, whether we'd like to admit it or not. Not only does digital distraction take you away from your creative work, it also prevents you from being able to concentrate on this work in the future. Technology encourages instant gratification, which is beneficial to us in terms of productivity, but it also diminishes our patience for the deeper levels of thinking required to be creative. Creative thinking does not come in moments of stress or distraction. It happens when your mind is bored, relaxed, and just kind of wandering around. This is the second stage of the creative process, incubation. The act of creativity is an oxymoron in itself, in action and non-action simultaneously. So if you're not allowing yourself to be bored because of the internet, or you're not relaxed because your phone keeps ringing and you forgot to send that text and your alarm keeps going off, your creativity is suffering, and maybe your sanity too. Like, go check that out. So how can you prevent or at least decrease digital distraction so that technology does not negatively affect your creativity? Congratulations, you have taken the first step to solving the problem by acknowledging that you have a problem. Digital distraction is easy to deny, especially because we're so over-reliant on computers, phones, etc. So we can always, chalk up our usage to doing work. On top of that, it's important to note that creativity is just a natural part of being human. For a lot of us, it just gets obstructed by digital distraction, which blocks our flow of ideas and decreases creativity. So ultimately, what's the answer to the digital distraction problem? Purpose. When you have a defined goal, it's a lot easier to spot and let go of distractions that don't serve you and get in the way of what you want. Brian Solis, a digital anthropologist, which by the way, I wish that was a job I'd known existed in college, says, when we avert distraction and focus in order to create and achieve our goals, we feel capable and successful. Purpose also pulls us out of our harmful self-focus and makes us feel part of something bigger beyond ourselves. It frees us from our rumination about ourselves in the past and keeps us oriented towards the future with a sense of what we can contribute. Please hit that subscribe button if you're enjoying this video, and I'll see you after Thanksgiving to find out how we've finally caught up to Black Mirror. Thanks for watching. Watch these videos, and all of the videos. You know what? If you're still watching, thank you so much. Why don't you go watch these videos, or any of the videos? Stay on YouTube, but stay watching my videos on YouTube so that I can grow. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Here are some other videos that I personally think you should watch if you liked the one that you just watched. Said watched a lot of times there.